is there ever a problem that the elevator will fall?
Okay, no. Again, Hollywood has given us a bad name. Let's say a conventional, they call it a cabled or traction elevator, has 4 to 6 cables holding the elevator up. And the reason they have multiple cables is for a big shiv, a drive shiv on the motor that can grip those cables and drive the elevator. One of those cables will hold up probably 6 elevators. Let's say a half-inch wire rope that has like a 12,000 pounds braking strength, or safe load on it, I should say. And there's 5 or 6 of them, and some of them are larger depending on the weight of the elevator. So elevators can't fall. In addition to that, those sets of cables is another cable that is dedicated to and exclusive for the overspeed device. And should it overspeed, there's a governor connected to this rope. This rope is traveling over. They call it the governor rope. If it overspeeds, it clamps down on this rope and it pulls a device, and these big, huge jaws clamp onto the main guide rails and stop the elevator. And they test those at full speed with full load with test weights. So they're certified and approved and accepted as such. So elevators, again, overspeeding and falling, they don't do that. I think I had heard years and years ago, maybe during the war or something, story about a plane that had struck the Empire State Building, and it had severed all of the cables. But I don't think there was a fatality in that particular case. But we're talking about, that may be, 1 or 2 in history that have severed all the cables. It just doesn't happen. There's so many safety devices, and they're so overbuilt that it's highly unlikely. I just don't ever think that would happen.
Well, I gather from what you say there have been a lot of improvements in the operation of both escalators and elevators over the years. Today, they are pretty much malfunction-free. A question, though, when an elevator does stop, if you're in an elevator and it stops, and whether the door has opened, probably has not, I'm not sure, but, and it's not level with the floor. What's the typical procedure to repair and to be able to get the people out of an elevator like that? I guess the company has to put an emergency call to the elevator maintenance company, and a technician has to come, and that takes a while. And then tell me the story. What would typically happen?
Yeah, good question. So an elevator stuck. Somebody has, engaged the elevator phone. It's engaged with, the security desk or somebody that answering service or something like that. It answers the phone. Right. Ultimately, if they can't get going, the doors are closed. Okay, let's go. Then they dispatch the elevator company, and the person travels. It just depends on where it is. If it's in a downtown area, there's usually people around. So then the technician would arrive and, walk upstairs to the elevator equipment room where all the, controllers and all the main brains and all that equipment is. And they start troubleshooting. Why did it blown fuse? Was there a certain kind of safety sensor that activated? And they need to figure out that, you're under all that pressure as a technician at that moment, obviously. So you want to get it going as quick as possible. If not, then it's a matter of securing the elevator in a mode where it's safe to move it manually, and you can move the elevator in most cases to a landing and then open the doors from the equipment room, or go downstairs and talk to the person about how to go about it, doing certain things, to get them out, and trying to keep them calm in the whole interim. But, a cabled elevator, that would be the procedure. Hydraulic elevators, being that there's fluid and pressure, oftentimes you can bleed down the system and move the elevator in a down direction to a landing, and then, get the doors open. So sometimes you can get it operational from the equipment room, as I described. Other times there may be a failure of something, a coil burned out or a relay or some widget broke, then that you have to get a little more creative. It's rare that there's a catastrophic failure where like a bearing in a motor completely went and it can't move, then that's a whole other problem. But that's really, really rare as well. In that case, you need to get, a lot more equipment, open another door perhaps, and then put a ladder down to the elevator. That's what firemen end up doing quite a bit. So there's a number of different ways to extract a person from an elevator, just depending on how bad it was, what caused it to stop.
Well, I'm just thinking of all the things I've seen in movies involving elevators, and they, I mean, I'm thinking of Die Hard, the Bruce Willis movie Die Hard. There were issues with the elevators there, and you got a really good look at them. And obviously, some of the elevators they fall in the movies. Are all elevators operated by cables? You mentioned hydraulic. Does that mean it's something pushing it up and down rather than cables lifting it? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. When they're designing the building, the architects and engineers and all those super smart people, they're designing the building. If it's 3, 4, 5 stories, it has a certain amount of traffic flow. They analyze the traffic flow in the building. Then and dollars matter too. They're looking at a budget, so they can incorporate a hydraulic elevator. So there's a hydraulic cylinder with a plunger, kind of like those gas station lifts. When you have your car raised up for them to work.
Exactly.
It's a little more elaborate than that, but there's they drill a hole in the ground and have a hydraulic cylinder. Some they can incorporate the hydraulic system as above ground, so they don't have to drill a hole in the ground. But it just depends on the size and shape and intent of the building. High-rise building, obviously, elevators are very expensive, and they analyze again the traffic flow. How many elevators do we need? Do we need 6? Do we need 8? Do we need 10? So in the old days, I think they were they had a little more, not generous, but more giving with the intent of getting the people in and around the building. And some engineers or designers may minimize that, where there'll be 2 elevators where there should have been 3, so you're waiting a little bit more. It just depends, but generally they're designed that way. They take that into account, how many people are flowing through the building, how fast the elevators need to be, how large the physical elevator needs to be itself. If there's smaller ones, there's larger ones. If you've been to a big commercial building, a high-rise, for example, the elevators may be very large because they need to move a number of people throughout the building, 20 people at a time or 30 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you talk about elevators. I just dawned on me. Not too long ago, I was in Europe and had a chance to visit the home area where Hitler used to live in Berchtesgaden. And there is an elevator in the mountain that was built for Hitler to go up through the mountain. And he was very claustrophobic. And the elevator was solid brass all around the inside with some mirrors, so that when you walked in this small elevator, it looked gigantic. And that elevator has been operating there since World War II, since before World War II. It's, I guess it's one of the most famous elevators anywhere in the world. And it works in a mountain, through a mountain, all the way up to the top of the mountain where, his summer home was. You ever heard about that one? It's an amazing story.
Yeah, I think I've been to that castle, but I don't remember seeing the elevator. But again, we're getting into an area where it's the intent. What kind of elevator do we need? I've seen articles on an elevator that was basically waterproof. The doors were waterproof. The actual exterior doors were underwater, under the ocean. When the tide would change or they drained this lock thing, that you could operate the elevator. But other than that, the water was, going against these doors. So again, it's just how you design the elevator. I maintain a couple of elevators. One of them is 100 years old, and it should be in a museum. It's so beautiful and so gorgeous and so ornate. It just was designed really, really well and maintained really, really well. And the tenant population treated the elevator really well. So all these combinations matter. You can really design beautiful elevator, but if somebody's abusing it, that's a different story. If they're not maintaining it, that's a different story. But I've seen elevators that have been designed really, really well, and they were really thinking about it, and they made it super heavy duty and overkill, and it'll last forever. Again, when I was involved with these transit agencies and doing consulting and designing systems for them, or specifications and such, they want it heavy duty so it will last, and there are not going to be problems and people getting stuck. So you take that into account when you're designing a building.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I want to talk about your work as an expert witness. I know you travel all across the country. You're called in to consult on elevators and systems that are not functioning properly to bring your expertise. You're in San Rafael, California, but you travel really all over the country, right? Talk a little bit about your work with law firms, to be an expert witness in court cases. You've done that a number of times. I understand you've, at least 80 times you've been deposed. Is that correct?
That's correct. Depositions come into play, depending on how far along the case is going, if it's going to come to trial. But yes, I'm called in for analyses, like you said, from law firms, for example. There's an injury, and there's plaintiff and defendant, and I'm called in whatever side, and they want an assessment of the elevator, and they want to find out maybe what happened in this accident, and is it a true story? Is it a false story? Whose fault was it? Was it a maintainer? Was it an accident? And, something broke. And then I'll have to render my opinion. I may have to write a report. I may be deposed, and the case may go to court where I have to testify. Obviously, 80 depositions and 8 court cases, so they don't go to trial too often, but sometimes they do. And I have to testify, and it's my word. I'm an expert, and I'm stating facts based on my experience as an expert. And, of course, there are attorneys who are very sharp and very smart who want to try to trip you up and maybe, slice some holes in your opinion or your whatever you thought about. But, hey, I'm an expert here. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not lying. This is a true thing. I just rendered an opinion. There was a motion to, move one company, elevator company, out of the case. And I rendered an opinion based on the records of the maintenance and so forth that there was an issue, and they should have done 1, 2, 3 when they didn't. And that's my opinion, and I feel confident about that. It also helps all those years of having hands-on on the elevators as well. So these types of things come up, and there's a litany of issues and a litany of perspectives. And there's a person who had a problem, wrenched their shoulder on an escalator getting on at an airport. I was in Seattle last week. There was a car caught on fire in a parking garage and flooded the whole parking garage on one landing. Not flooded, but a tremendous amount of water. Water went down the hoistway. I'm going to Chicago this week for another water-related failure. And again, I got to make an assessment, write a report, tell the insurance company what's going on, or in other cases, tell attorneys what's going on. But again, it's based on my factual experience, factual knowledge, and I need to be confident in that opinion I'm rendering. And then I have to be straight with them. If this happened and they're lying, or this happened and it really, it's a good thing for our case or not. But regardless, I have to be honest with them and impartial. I can't be saying, well, yeah, because you got hurt, well, let's make it look like this. No, that doesn't happen. I need to be honest and straight and factual about it.
And I assume these cases always involve where someone got injured. Is that right, for the most part?
For trips and falls, or something like that, or again, there's water, fire, etc. It's a litany of things, but there's injuries involved, slips and falls mostly.
You sound like you've had a fascinating career. I gather you really you obviously must love what you do. Am I right?
Indeed, it it can become a compulsion at times. So some of my family kind of looks at me a little weird. Are you working again? Come on, take some time off. Enjoy yourself. It is very interesting. There's so many different aspects of it, and so many different systems, and so much technology, and so many different types. So it's very interesting. I really enjoy it. I'm thankful that I found an occupation that I really, really enjoy.
And I would assume you're one of the few experts of your like you that are available. You don't run into guys like you everywhere. I want to point out that you have an absolute great website. If anybody's interested in making note, they would need to contact you. It could be a law firm, could be somebody in building maintenance or whatever. You have a great website that gives your information, how to get in touch with you, so they could talk to you, maybe bring you aboard wherever they might be. And it is EscalatorExpert.com. EscalatorExpert.com. If you go there, you'll learn more about Robert Cotton, our guest, and his experiences in working on and analyzing and doing almost anything else involving the subject of elevators and escalators. Rob, I find it fascinating chatting with you. I could talk another hour with you because I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about, but it's been great covering the surface here of this amazing subject. So thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it. And continue. Good luck to you, okay?
Thank you so much, Doug. I really appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome indeed. Have a good day. Have a good time on your trip to Chicago, too. We thank you for coming. That's it, everybody. The whole story of escalators and elevators. There's a lot more there than you probably realize and that you never think about, right? amazing. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You have been listening to a broadcast from Close Up Radio, a division of Close Up Television Incorporated.